Hi, folks. I'm Brandon from Twister Talk. We're re-airing classic shows for you to enjoy. So settle in and have fun. As always, thanks for listening. All right, on with the show.
It's a twister! It's a twister! Back up! Back up! Back up!
And that will keep us a winning podcast of the year.
Yes.
It's Twister Talk. I'm Gary.
I'm Sue.
I'm Brandon.
That's right. Hey, if you're on Facebook and you join the Twister Talk with Gary, Sue, and Brandon on Facebook, for God's sake, leave a comment every once in a while. Is it that hard?
Yeah, say hello.
I get comments everywhere else. So you go to the main page like, we don't know who this guy is. And it's like, well, you could just say, hey, you guys are doing a good job. Might help.
Or if there's something you don't like, let us know.
Yeah, that's right. You know, if you think that we're out of line on something, let us know.
Or you can even give us ideas for shows.
Yes.
That's right.
Very
you
much
won't get any money for it, but we will steal your idea and use it for our own.
That's right.
Anyway.
No, actually, we will give you full credit.
That's right. We will do that. So,
because we are nice people.
Okay.
Yes, we will take your idea because here at Twister Talk, plagiarism is utmost.
That's right. And we know that. Well, there's been several severe weather books over the year that you found out were plagiarized. I can't remember the title of it.
Seriously?
Oh yeah. And the guy said that was Joe's dissertation paper for a doctorate.
Oh, God.
Well, I just put my name on it and made a book out of it. It's like, yeah.
Oh boy.
It was back in the 1980s. And I don't remember who the author was. It was back in the 1980s. It's like I was working at B. Dalton at the time, and we heard about it. And it was like, okay. Anyway,
we are all in favor of proper plagiarism.
That's right. So on this episode of Twister Talk, we're going to talk about a very unusual outbreak, and we're going to give Brandon point on this. This was a very strange, severe weather day because what happened in one town literally became legend, and then it actually became a decent book and then became a really bad movie. We'll talk about that.
Arguably the worst tornado movie ever.
Yeah, that may be the worst. Yeah. But anyway, it took place in Grand Island, Nebraska in June of 1980. And this was really, honestly, folks, a night from hell for the people who lived in that city. And we'll talk about why. I'll let you take point and talk about what happened that night in Grand Island, and also link it to the book and to a horribly bad movie.
Yes, they did. All right. So, yes, June 3rd, 1980, Grand Island, Nebraska. This was a tornado outbreak that became known as the Night of the Twisters, not just to the folks who lived in Grand Island, but it also became the title of a book that novelized that outbreak, which eventually became, like we said, a really bad movie. But basically, the outbreak began on June 2nd, and there was a weather system that was stretched kind of across the U.S., producing strong tornadoes, not just in Nebraska, but also in Indiana, Iowa, Ohio. There was one tornado that even struck the east side of Indianapolis. There was one fatality near Crawfordsville, Indiana. And there were even tornadoes in this outbreak that were touching down as far east as Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and even Maryland. So, yeah, stretching into a lot of areas besides just Nebraska and, of course, Grand Island. I believe a total of 7 tornadoes touched down in and around Grand Island, Nebraska on that particular evening. And this particular outbreak was unusual for really 3 major reasons. One of those was the incredibly slow speed at which the tornadic supercells were moving over the city of Grand Island. They were clipping right along at the very leisurely speed of just 8 miles per hour.
Oh, my God.
Incredible.
I mean, you often hear tornado warnings or severe thunderstorm warnings, and you hear speeds of 25, 35, 55, 60 miles per hour. No. 8 miles per hour in this case. So if you were under one of those things, it must have felt like it was just parked over your head.
It was. At times, the storms on radar were stationary. You can't imagine that.
The second unusual factor here was the fact that 3 of those 7 tornadoes were anticyclonic.
That is interesting, yeah.
Yes, it is. Now, over 99% of tornadoes that occur in the northern atmosphere rotate counterclockwise, which means they rotate in a leftward direction. On this particular night, 3 of these 7 tornadoes actually rotated clockwise. All right, so there was yet another factor here that made this particular set of tornadoes such an unusual outbreak, and that is the fact that most of them did not follow the kind of typical southwest to northeast track that tornadoes usually take. There were accounts of several of them that would actually kind of double back over their own path at least once. They would end up starting in the northwest or end up moving west or south or.
Well, I'm reading here about one that had technically a 7-mile path, but if you actually followed the path, it was over 14 miles because the thing was just meandering along.
Yeah, there was no steering winds in the upper atmosphere to move these storms along. It's incredible. What was the strength on these storms?
But yeah, there was one F4 there, and that kind of hit in the South Locust Street area.
And that was the only one of the night, I think. I've got to double check that. But I thought reading it was the only F4, but it doesn't really matter.
There were a couple F3s, too.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter about the strength of the storms because the fact they just kept coming over and over again. Can you imagine getting, all the tornadoes pass and, the siren's going in. Well, there's another one behind it.
Well, yeah, and the whole ridiculous idea that these things were barely moving.
Yeah, I mean, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like we said a second ago, these supercells were only tracking at about 8 miles per hour, so they were sitting. If you've ever tried to go 8 miles an hour in your car, you know how slow that is.
Yeah, it is.
You almost can't coast that slowly.
Yeah.
So these things were sitting in the same area for pretty much the entire night.
Right.
And so they would have just been continually recycling, and the same supercell would have probably put down multiple tornadoes.
Right.
Yeah.
The only thing I imagine compares that would be obviously Gerald, Texas, because that F5 went through Gerald, Texas, moving very slow.
Yeah.
It took its time, and that's why the death toll was, I think, 30 people, and the destruction was so great because literally usually a tornado goes by in about 10 seconds.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's kind of the advantage of a tornado is it's here and then it's gone. It's not like, I'm just kind of puttering around here, spinning and spinning. And
that the F5 in Gerald, it just literally would take some places 30 seconds to go over home.
Yeah.
Well,
which means the destruction is going to be even worse because it has all that time to cause damage and destroy what's left.
And Brandon, that seems to be sadly, that seems to be what happened in Grand Isle that night.
Yeah, and you're used to seeing videos and whatnot of a tornado that's moving along at a decent clip, and it may hit a house, but it's there and gone in 10 seconds.
Right.
But you have one of these things that takes 3 or 4 times that long for it to pass, and that certainly also means that an otherwise lesser tornado is going to inflict considerably more damage simply for the greater duration.
Yeah.
But for example, it looks like the first of the 7 tornadoes to hit Grand Island in that 2-3 hour period looks like it actually touched down just southwest of, I hope I pronounced this correctly, St. Library, and then into western Grand Island. Let's see, that had a 6.5 mile path. It was about 700 yards wide, only produced 1 fatality, fortunately. And but it did destroy a number of farm homes, and the 1 fatality was a woman who was killed while she was trying to drive to a relative's house.
Oh my.
So unfortunately, she was caught out in her vehicle, which, as we all know, is the very worst place you can be caught in a tornado.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. Now, Brandon, this grabbed the news headlines. I do remember the news headlines all over the country about this storm. But now what happened was a book came out of this. Could you talk a little bit about the book?
Yes, it did. And I've actually read that book. And the book is titled Night of the Twisters. It was written in 1984 by Ivy Ruckman. It reads. We've actually discussed this book before on Twister Talk. It reads like a novel. It's a semi-fictionalized version of this outbreak. Now, Ivy Ruckman is a children's author, so this isn't normally her, her area of expertise. But she is a native of Nebraska. Okay. Which is, I think, in part why she wrote the book, because it kind of hit her native state. And the book told the story of a character named Danny Hatch, who is a preteen, and his family, and what happened to them as this outbreak took place over the course of those 3 hours and the subsequent days.
And the book did sell very well. I do remember doing a little stat list looking up on that, and it sold a lot of copies, did well. But then somebody had the keen idea
We'll make a movie.
to make a movie. And if you want to talk about abandoning the plot.
Oh, boy.
Oh, geez. Whoever came up with the idea for this movie must have worked for the Hallmark Channel, because it was about that bad.
It was, well, the thing was also, in the movie, it takes place in November.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's are you kidding me?
I'm kind of curious why they moved the time of year.
I don't know.
I mean, November is not a big time for tornado outbreaks in Iowa.
Usually tornado outbreaks at that time of year are along the Gulf Coast.
Nebraska, excuse me.
The Gulf Coast. But yeah, it took place in Iowa, I guess. And Nebraska, okay. And it was November. It was unusual. It was an unusual November. And this storm chaser doesn't act anything like a storm chaser. Is tracking these tornadoes. It's just crazy.
This is a movie. We talked about this one, I believe, in our episode Movies and Weather. Mm-hmm. So if you want to hear us really tear that movie apart, go back and listen to that one. But yes, the book by Ivy Ruckman inspired a made-for-cable TV original movie, which was also titled Night of the Twisters. Now, the movie came out on February 14th, 1996 on what was then called the Family Channel.
Right.
I believe it's now called Freeform.
Right.
Now, the movie version still centered on the Hatch family, and the majority of the characters that were in the book did get adapted to the film. Mm-hmm. However, as we have just pointed out and made fun of, there were a number of discrepancies between the movie and the book.
Yes.
One of the most notable being the town. We know this took place in Grand Island, Nebraska, and that's mentioned in the book Night of the Twisters. But in the movie, the name of the town is changed from Grand Island to the fictional non-existent town of Blainsworth. I don't know why they did that, and also, as Gary just pointed out, in the movie, the tornadoes take place in November instead of in June. And I can't help but wonder if the look and feel of the town, because in the movie, the town is very hilly and wooded, and it looks like it's fall.
Yes.
If you've never been to Grand Island, Nebraska, it is in central Nebraska, pretty much just about in the geographic center of the 48 contiguous states. It is flat.
Yes.
If they have any trees, they're imported.
They're important.
Yeah, it was an amazingly bad. I watched it when it came out, and it was an amazingly bad
I remember
movie.
watching it too. It was terrible.
And it's the only time I saw a tornado stop at a red light.
Well, actually, with these tornadoes, that's not entirely implausible.
It's like it was afraid of being pulled over or something. Yeah, get over the side of the road.
Well, at least it was a conscientious twister.
That's right.
Oh, man.
It was
But
amazing.
I really wonder if that has to do with the fact that this movie was actually filmed in Kleinburg, Ontario, Canada, which apparently Ivy Ruckman was very disappointed about because, as she quite rightly points out, it took a lot of the reality out of the actual event.
No, really?
Really?
That's like,
yeah,
well,
I have to agree with her there.
I'm still waiting for this.
It's kind of a shame because this is such a weird outbreak.
Yes.
You definitely could make a pretty good movie out of this.
You could, and they showed you how not to.
Yeah, and exactly. They showed you how not to. Because I'm sure there were people. There must have been people in Grand Island, as these tornadoes just kept kind of circling around town and meandering down Main Street, who were probably thinking, we need an old priest and a young priest.
Yeah. You're like, I mean, there are people, I've read stories, people, and they really wondered, were we going to live to the morning?
It must have been like the end of the world.
Every time you turn around, there was another tornado coming, and it got crazy. And that should have been enough work to make a great movie from. You could have really highlighted the drama and everything else, but I guess since we learned that tornadoes come from stratus clouds in Twister, so I guess you're not really expecting much more than that.
And don't forget the evil corporate storm chasers.
Yeah, evil corporate storm chasers. By gosh, taking money to fund tornado research is bad.
Yeah.
Got to be a little plucky group there that just, we got $10 for building a tornado tower and whatever.
And Gary, Gary, just because you mentioned it, the kind of goofy storm chaser character, Bob Iverson, was the name of the character in the movie, played by an actor named David Ferry. If for anybody who wants some useless trivia, the Bob Iverson character is not even in the book.
No, I remember that. He's not even in the book.
And he, of course, falls in love with Danny's mother, whose occupation as a waitress in the movie was changed from the book.
Yeah.
As was his father's name was changed to Jack, played by John Schneider. More useless trivia.
Yeah, I remember.
And is said to be his stepfather because his real dad died in a plane crash.
Yeah.
Again, that was changed from the book to the movie. That's in the movie. This was not true in the book.
Well, the part that got me about the movie the most part when they tried escaping the General Lee at the end.
And unfortunately, they did a Thelma and Louise style suicide dive off a cliff.
Really, man, another Dodge Charger gone to waste.
Yep, another Dodge Charger bites the dust. So. But it's sad because that movie could have informed people to do something.
Yeah,
it could have like, hey, this is what really happened.
And if you really want to hear us tear this movie apart, like I said, go back and listen to our weather and movies episode where we kind of rip into this. But just there's so many little things that we could tear apart from the toilet flushing and blowing out the stink vent in the roof to the wires that were making the shingles on the roof flap up and down during supposedly driven rain that was falling straight down.
Isn't that the one where Grandpa goes out and offers himself up to the storm?
No, that's the one with Bruce Campbell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's Tornado, which is actually not a bad movie for what it is.
But he sacrifices himself to save the town.
Yeah.
But I like in that movie they go, "We're in the eye."
That's a classic. We're in the eye.
We're in the eye.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Quick, get a leather belt and tie yourself to a well pipe.
Yes.
Yeah, that'll save us. And on that high note, we're going to say goodbye for this episode of Twister Talk because we've run out of things to say or the tangents are catching up with us. Anyway, for Twister Talk, I'm Gary.
I'm Sue.
I'm Brandon.
See you next time. Bye. Twister Talk podcast with you with the Podbean app. Download the app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. Install the app on your phone. Search Twister Talk Welcome in the app to join us for all things weather.